The European Movement International caught up with Neven Mimica, Commissioner for International Development and Cooperation, to discuss the EU's future and the future of the EU's development policy.
The primary objective of the European Union development cooperation policy is indeed the reduction and, in the long term, the eradication of poverty. This has to be seen in the context of sustainable development, in line with the international agenda, in particular the United Nations 2030 agenda and its sustainable development goals. You refer to human rights and conflicts. Human rights and development are very much linked. They have the same objective, to improve well-being and freedom, based on the inherent dignity and equality of all people. They are universal values that the European Union vigorously promotes around the world, but they are also linked to good governance. Without a government and institutions with the capacity to serve the public interests, human rights cannot be upheld, and poverty and inequality will continue to persist. And let us not forget that also development and security go hand in hand. Sustainable development and poverty eradication require peace and security. Without sustainable development, there will be no sustainable peace. This is why the European Union intends to support partner countries and their people efficiently, in order to build stable, safe and resilient societies in which people can live in peace and dignity. The figures we have now tell us that in 60 years, Europe will have around 5% of the world population and 10 to 15% of the global GDP. This is very far from where Europe was at the beginning of last century. However, Europe was created 60 years ago not as a group of rich countries with the idea to play a big role in the world, but on the ashes of the Second World War. First of all, to unite European countries economically and politically in order to secure lasting peace. So it is always hard to predict, even with a crystal ball, how the European Union will look like in 60 years. But your question is right, insofar it calls for politicians to think of the common good in the long term and not only short term. This is much needed now. I'm absolutely sure that only by being united, only by being much more closely interlinked one to another, only by being considered by the rest of the world as the European Union and not as a sum of its member states, we will secure the sustainable success of our founding fathers' great intuition. When we are confronted with growing populism and anti-European sentiments within Europe, and with some world partners who would prefer the European Union not to exist, I think it is high time to recall to each of us our core values. Europe is founded on peace, freedom, democracy and solidarity. I realize these are 4 words, not 3, but these are our label, our trademark. These values are the reason why the European Union was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2012. When I travel across the world, I understand that they are the main product we export to other countries, and I am very proud of it. Therefore, let us explain to the young generation what would be Europe without these 4 words, and without all the concrete benefits for our daily life that arise from these words that nowadays we tend to take for granted. Let us be proud of our achievements and ready to build a stronger and more united Europe.